Hello, everyone. It's so wonderful to be here. Welcome to the closing session of the Island Finance Forum 2023. I cannot believe it. It's been a whirlwind, and I'm still so excited about everything that's happened over the past 3 days. This is absolutely wonderful and fantastic. My name is Stacey Alvarez de la Campa. As you might know now, I am the community manager here at Island Innovation, and I'm really happy to be co-presenting this Blue Economy Solution Showcase with our CEO, Mr. James Elsmore. So the focus of this session is going to be how blue economy solutions can help islands to grow economically and sustainably. We've heard all about the financing. We've heard all about the ways that this can be accessed and the financing vehicles out here. So these are the type of projects that kind of are facilitated by this financing. So each presenter is going to have about 5 minutes to outline their solutions, and then there's going to be a question and answer at the end. So just letting you know, a poll is going to appear on your screen. We would love to know where you're from. So please fill in the poll, let us know what region you're connecting from, what sector you belong to as well, and also, what industry you're in. We would love to see those results as soon as we can. And in the meantime, please use the chat function. You can introduce yourself, say where you're joining from. Feel free to make any comments in the session. But we would urge you to use the Q&A if you're going to ask any specific questions. It's just a better way for us to focus on your questions and actually get your questions answered. So at this point, we're going to wait a little bit and see if we see the poll results. While we're waiting for that, we know that James is here. James, over to you.
I can see some answers coming in, and we know also we have a lot of people joining us on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter, where we're live streaming the sessions. I'm really excited about this, Stacey, because we've been talking about the investment all week. And it's going to be interesting to see, even within the blue economy, a wide variety of different solutions in tourism, transportation, also within digitization and finance. And this is a new format for us. So we'll have a rapid fire introduction to a series of different solutions. And I know a lot of people have been saying that they're particularly looking forward to this session to just to see kind of the different things that are unavailable. And really that's what this platform is about. It's about looking at what is happening in different parts of the world and how that can be applied in the local context. Okay, poll is being shared.
Yes, fantastic. So as we can see, we suspected, actually we have an almost equal distribution, people from the Caribbean, North America, and Europe. That's great. We love to see that contingent. The Caribbean is kind of slightly edging out everyone else, but we've very strong representation from Europe and North America, which we're very happy for. We see South and Central America and Africa and the Indian Ocean region are represented as well. So that's really great to see all of you making the effort to join. We know where you are. It might be very early or very late. So thanks so much for joining us.
Okay, and with that, I wanted to mention, if you're interested in this topic in the blue economy, then we will have another webinar coming up in a few weeks, specifically looking at the Micronesia region and opportunities for finance and investment in Micronesia, which is made up of Cabo Verde. Christian, no, this is the investment forum. I'm talking about the webinar, actually. Cabo Verde, Canary Islands, Azores, and Madeira. So more information coming up about that webinar that Abby has just put in the chat. The other event we have coming up is in person. And if you're interested in joining us in person, I'll share some information about that at the end of the session. But now I'd really like to get into the solution. So we'll be traveling around the world, looking at a range of different solutions, different opportunities within this broad sector of the blue economy. People often ask me what the blue economy is, and really it's anything that helps us invest in a sustainable ocean, in a future sustainable ocean, but also helps to make use of that to give opportunities, especially for islands, to grow their economy. So it can be renewable energy, sustainable fisheries, improving the ports and the maritime industry, which is so important, and of course, sustainable tourism and many, many more that we'll be hearing of. So for our first presentation, I will invite them up shortly. To all of our presenters, just a reminder, you have 5 minutes. I'll be strict on the timing just because we have a lot of people to get through. So you'll see me pop back on the screen when you have about 30 seconds left. And I'll introduce our first presenter, Sam Johnston, who is a senior engineer at Plotech. As part of Global OTEC, is one of the partners of a pan-European consortium, which is designing an OTEC platform, and he'll tell you what OTEC is shortly, capable of withstanding the extreme weather effects of tropical oceans. So, Sam, thank you for being here, and over to you.
Hi, my name is Sam Johnston. I'm the Senior Engineer for Global OTEC, working on the Plotech project in Gran Canaria. And I'm here to talk to you today about some of the solutions that we can put forward for renewable energy for island states. So as you may know, most island states rely heavily on diesel power to generate most of their electricity. This can be offset somewhat by using renewable sources such as solar, wind, hydro, and geothermal. However, all of these have their own little drawbacks that mean they're not really suitable for the key points that island nations really rely on. So solar and wind, for example, have very low availability and usually require a lot of maintenance. Hydro can be very scarce, and geothermal is usually just not really feasible due to the cost. So what's OTEC? OTEC stands for Ocean Thermal Energy Conversion. It's not a new technology. It's been around since the late 1800s. It was first coined by Jack D'Arsonval in the towards the end of the 1800s. And his student, Georges Claude, who can be seen in the picture on the left, was the first person to implement one of these systems in Cuba. He implemented an open cycle, ocean cycle system, which is where seawater itself is evaporated, is run through a turbine to generate electricity, and then is cooled back to a liquid using cold water. And the system runs as a cycle. What we're working with is a closed cycle system, which can be seen on the right-hand side of the screen, where the hot water is used to evaporate the working fluid. That runs through a turbine, is then condensed using cold water, and then a pump pumps it back around to cycle the system again. So where is it available? Well, everywhere that you can see in the red band is a location that's prime for consistent OTEC power. The areas in the yellow band, those are areas where there's intermittency, and sometimes the temperature isn't exactly right throughout the year. So the sort of key metric that we look for is about 20 degrees temperature difference between the surface water and the deep ocean water. And that gives us, when we look at this map, it gives us 96 countries available to have some of their power offset by OTEC. One of our key partners in this endeavor is SIDSDOC. SIDSDOC comprises of 32 small island developing states who have all got the same focus. They want to try and offset their diesel power production using renewable energy, and really focus on some of the challenges that climate change is affecting them. These 32 island states represent 10 gigawatts of installed diesel capacity, and we really think that we can make a huge dent in reducing that and offsetting some of the carbon that's obviously released in the atmosphere from that, and really make a dent in how much money they pay for this electricity. There are some places that are paying in excess of 45 cents per kilowatt hour, and we believe we can cut that roughly in half. So where does Global OTEC fit into this? What you can see on the screen at the moment is Dominique. Dominique is our first of a kind vessel, which is going to sort of de-risk this technology. And it represents a 1.5 megawatt net output of just OTEC energy. In order to get the same sort of output from solar, you'd be looking at about 20 times the sort of land area that this would take up. So this barge has a footprint of about 70 meters by 20 meters. And so 20 times that is required to have the same sort of consistent amount of solar power, plus you need battery storage in order to ensure consistency, given that solar only is able to operate for those 12 hours. And Plotech is a consortium of 7 different companies. The goal here is to take that the technology that we're going to be using in our first of a kind and de-risk that for islands in the Caribbean and in the Pacific that have to deal with tropical rotating storms. That presents the highest risk for a no-tech plant in most countries. And what our consortium is aimed at is really reducing the amount of risk and providing a sustainable solution that can operate all the way through the year and provide consistent baseload power to the people who need it. So I welcome you to follow us and follow us on our journey. You can visit us at plotech.eu. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook.
Oh, thanks so much for that, Sam. We really appreciate that intervention. You're right on target. You are really keeping us very disciplined in terms of time. So thank you for that. And we will now go on to our next speaker, our next presenter, who will present a fantastic solution. I would love to introduce Irene Okereel of the Palau Entrepreneurs for Growth. Irene's organization supports businesses in Palau and the Pacific in general. So over to you. We look forward to hearing you, Irene.
I want to wish everyone a very good morning from Palau. And we're all in different time zones. I'm very, very grateful again, James and Christian and Stacy, for this opportunity to share. Since you now know that I'm not an engineer, I'm really an entrepreneur at heart, I will share with you the few solutions that I have been working hard over the past few years to put together, realizing the unique realities that businesses face in small island developing nations like Palau. So the solutions I came up with based on those realities of businesses like capital, lack of funding, labor issues, and diversification of the economy, not only to tourism, but to expand into other areas of business. Since we are developing countries, there are not industry standards yet. We, of course, on top of the list with entrepreneurial programs and training opportunities, we seek to preserve our cultural heritage and principles, as well as conserving our environments. So the solutions I came up with that are, to me, very realistic and can be very helpful, not only to Palau, but to many similar island nations. I'd start with each community, I think, incubators or accelerators for entrepreneurs, MSMEs in general, particularly to support startups with their individual or collective creativity and innovations, are solutions for business and economic development in small island communities. Number two, capital or funding mechanisms to start and to grow MSMEs, whether that comes in grants or loans or both, are crucial. However, timely trainings on digital, financial, and business literacy, along with workshops to provide trainings and business development skills, are crucial solutions for sustainability of MSMEs. It's not enough that they start and we support them to start, but I find that in island nations, sustainability is not just a word. It is something that must be resolved and practiced, and it is huge on people's minds on how do I sustain a micro, small, or medium or business of any kind, especially in an environment. As the engineer said, we are in the regions that are most affected by climate change and global warmings. So you could see we're in the red regions. One of those solutions I was thinking about that requires capital and funding mechanisms is renewable energy technologies. Renewable energy technologies, like in Palau, we are finally going to open our first solar farm in June, and that will resolve 20% of all the energy costs and issues that the country's been dealing with for decades. And so I believe that the solutions to enabling more renewable energy technologies in island developing countries comes through private-public partnerships. It is not possible that only private businesses or private investors invest into a developing country without the support of governments. So private-public partnerships to enable investments of renewable energy technologies in various forms, whether it's ocean thermal energy or wave or tidal or solar or wind, all the various forms of renewable energy technologies can be enabled. Investments to provide those are crucial and can be enabled in various forms to help the diversified MSMEs in such island developing countries through private-public partnerships. Last but not least, and this is on the human level, I would think that business networking through community events that encourage private-public partnerships as well are solutions for improving the human interpersonal relationships that are key to developing and growing healthy entrepreneurial ecosystems in both developing and developed nations in the world. I really appreciate this island innovation, this forum, especially James and Christian and Stacy. We need to have more of this. Island nations, as you know, we are all remote in the Caribbean, in the Pacific, in the Indian Ocean, all the different parts of the world that we're at. And when you want to fly to these places, it's expensive. And so this type of forum is I would say, another solution of creating effective, cost-effective business networking. Community events online somehow find a way for people to connect, and eventually, they get to meet in person. And I've already, since the beginning of this forum, have connected with a few, and we're already planning virtual meetings and trying to come up with ideas on how we can provide digital, financial, business literacy trainings. And so I'm very grateful for this type of events we're having, business networking. I think that's all that I have, and I'm always open for questions.
Thank you so much, Irene. I'm really happy to hear about the networking you've been able to do virtually. I know how important it is for Palau, and we are looking forward to having more of these sessions to include the Pacific and bring in more Pacific entrepreneurs. So thanks for sharing those ideas. We'll now move on to our third intervention from Sid Vollebrecht, who is the Managing Director of Elemental Water Makers in the Netherlands and is developing solar desalination solutions. So we'll pass over to Sid.
Hello and good day, everybody. My name is Sid Vollebrecht. I'm the Managing Director and one of the founders of Elemental Water Makers. And we turn seawater into clean water using only solar energy. We've been doing that for over 10 years. And we're active in over 25 islands and coastal regions worldwide. And as a technology provider, it's my pleasure to tell you a little bit more today about our company and solution. So let's get started. So it's obvious that the problem that we're trying to solve is water scarcity, and islands, being on the forefront of climate change, have limited natural water reserves. So they're also facing the big issue of water scarcity. And of course, when you look at water scarcity, the islands are surrounded by water. So it's not really water scarcity. It's more that all this water is salt water. 97% of all water available on Earth is seawater. And turning seawater into fresh water is an existing technology. It's called desalination. It's been done since the 50s. And what happens with this technology is that's considered as energy intensive. So you need a lot of energy to make the water from the sea. This makes it expensive, but also because it's using fossil energy. It's a dirty process and actually accelerating climate change, which leads to more water scarcity. It's also technology that's considered as complex, difficult to operate and maintain, and not feasible on small scales. And these are the three issues that my organization said, let's do it differently. We want to turn fresh water today into clean water without limiting tomorrow. And what we did is we developed a unique technology. It's called energy recovery technology that allows us to use 75% less energy for the desalination process. So a normal desalination system uses reverse osmosis membranes and needs a high pressure pump to turn the water into fresh water. And then you require around 10 kilowatt hours for 1 cubic meter, 1,000 liters of water. And what we do, we use the same membrane-based process, and we recycle the salt water that comes out of the process. We recycle the pressure using energy recovery device, and that allows us to use less auxiliary energy. Basically saves us 7 kilowatt hours. So we only need 3 kilowatt hour for 1 cubic meter of water. And it also allows us to make the step towards solar energy, as we also need 70% less solar panels in that case. So we're able to provide affordable water, sustainably generated, reliable, and easy to use with remote monitoring. I'm happy to share that the process is chemical free and that the salt water return is also additionally diluted, so there's no environmental impact in our solutions. As I mentioned, we've been doing this in over 25 islands and countries worldwide, and we do this for private properties and resorts. We do this for industries, but we also do this for communities and local governments to help them get access to clean water. So here's a couple of our projects. For example, resort in Curacao that uses 90,000 liters per day with one of our containerized systems. And this is they claim it as the world's most private island in Belize, a small key that uses around 9,000 liters per day. Or in Aruba, an industry that is now using our water to save on their water bills. And as I mentioned, these were systems that were powered by local electricity, but we also provide off-grid solar powered systems. This is called the elemental water source. And it runs solely by the solar energy that you see on top of this containerized solution. So it's all built in, pre-mounted, so it's plug and play, and it has the water and energy already dedicated and built in the system. So for example, in the Philippines, for one of those many islands that have people living on them, these are deployed to help them get access to clean water. Or in the Virgin Islands, a private property that use it to get an independent water supply. Our mission is really to provide water for everybody, so not excluding anybody. And also for this purpose, we have designed emergency response and disaster relief solutions. So these are portable solutions, elemental water response. So if a cyclone or a drought hits, these portable cases can be used. So instead of transporting water, you only have to deploy these small pellet cases. It can be with air freight or with a boat, and they can make 30 to 50 liters per hour. So this is really for a life-saving situation. So it's my pleasure to be here today to tell you a little bit more. I hope that based on this small introduction, you will join us in solving freshwater scarcity using only the sea and the sun. I would invite you. We're always looking for project partners locally. If you want to discuss a project, get a quote, or if you have any interesting ideas, I'm available for you to Q&A. But I also look forward to hearing from you through my details here. Thanks for listening, and have a nice day.
Well, thanks so much to Sid for that amazing presentation. I think one of the things that really brought home was the fact that often solutions are more complex than we think. So for example, desalination, we think of it, oh, that's a great solution, but it was really good to see that we have to bear in mind the use of energy during that process. So it's really awesome to see a project like this that ticks so many boxes. So thanks so much for that. So next up, we have Chris Walker, who is the Director of Operations at SOS Carbon, which stands for Sargassum Ocean Sequestration of Carbon. This is a great way to have a positive impact on what's happening on the planet in terms of sargassum and climate change. So over to you, Chris.
Thank you very much. So good afternoon, everyone from the Dominican Republic here. Thank you first and foremost for the space at the Island Finance Forum. Thank you to Island Innovation for the invitation. My name is Christopher Walker. I'm the Director of Operations and Business Development at SOS Carbon. SOS Carbon was a company born out of a research and development project at the University of MIT, trying to solve one of the largest crises here in the Caribbean. And really, rather than just solve a problem, try to transform it into opportunities for adapting to new climate change realities, also creating resilience and industry diversification, and through that, really creating jobs. To give a little bit of context, the Caribbean over the past little more than a decade has been heavily impacted by a seaweed bloom, the largest seaweed bloom in the world, called sargassum. Over more than a decade, this has begun invading our coasts, causing lots of different negative impacts from the economy, the environment, as well as coastal health. What's occurred really is sargassum has been around longer than we have, and it's always been a healthy ecosystem in the open ocean for many various marine species. But as I will explain in a little bit, when it arrives to our coasts, it really turns into something very negative. What we have also seen is that the volumes have increased significantly and more territories are being impacted by sargassum. Last year, we set a new record, over 24 million tons of sargassum in the Caribbean Atlantic. And what we've also realized is that this is a problem that's here to stay. It used to be seasonal, but now it seems to be expanding into a year-round issue. So why do we care? Sargassum impacts many different areas. One of the ones that we most hear about is our local economies through tourism. The Caribbean is very tourism dependent. And when sargassum arrives, as you can see from the slide, it does not cause the beautiful, pristine Caribbean waters that we are all used to and that attract all of the tourists, but rather it turns into this murky, brown, contaminated, not only water, but also sand. This has had an effect between 6 and 35% impact on tourism arrivals and revenues in different times and at different locations throughout the Caribbean. But as you can imagine, this basically turns into hundreds of millions of dollars in possible losses on a yearly basis for the Caribbean. It also impacts our local environment, turtle nesting grounds, as well as marine species and even corals, as it creates these anoxic zones, which creates ultimately mortality zones. Before I mentioned in the open ocean, it is something very beneficial, very healthy, but when it agglomerates on the coast, it has all of these negative impacts. Not only tourism, environment, but also the last one is coastal community health. In the short term, we've seen that sargassum can impact in terms of headaches, dizziness, increased heart palpitations, for example, but even in more serious occasions, it can impact pregnant women across the Caribbean and cause issues such as preeclampsia. So what has SOS Carbon and MIT tried to do? Well, we've developed various technologies, one of which is the literal collection module. We realized that the first thing that we should do to adapt to this new reality of climate change, as well as bad practices of nutrient runoff into our oceans, is really be able to provide a solution that can harvest at scale, that is cost effective, and also integrates the local community. The LCM, or literal collection module, is this aluminum structure, as you can see here, that adapts onto artisanal fishing boats found across the Caribbean and creates a cost-effective way and an easy way to scale a solution Caribbean-wide to deal with the sargassum problem. At the same time, this gives us the added benefit that we've been able to train local fishermen and community to operate these systems, providing formal employment to a largely informal sector. The added benefit of that as well is being able to take away from overfishing practices, for example, and really turn them into operations of environmental remediation. Today, we operate in the Dominican Republic as well as Antigua and Barbuda. We have a pipeline across the Caribbean. Soon we are going into Mexico as well. But really, what we want to focus on is not only trying to mitigate the problem, but create opportunities for the Caribbean region. There's a few opportunities that can be transformed from this issue. One, effectively, as the name mentions, sargassum, ocean sequestration of carbon. Sargassum itself sucks up a lot of CO2 and methane, which if we collect it and we transform it, or for example, we sink it, which needs more studying, we're able to sequester millions of tons of CO2 on a yearly basis. But apart from that, it also gives us an opportunity to utilize sargassum as a primary material. At SOS Carbon, we've already exported to Finland, another country, sargassum, to seek solutions to implement processing facilities in the Dominican Republic that are sustainable and can transform this issue into new industries such as biostimulants, bioplastics, which can solve other issues such as chemical fertilizers or our plastics issue around the world. And through that, be able to create a more adapted to the new reality of climate change Caribbean, but also a more resilient, industrially diversified regional economy that also can provide over 10,000 jobs in the next 5 to 10 years. Please feel free to reach out anytime. Happy to talk and discuss in more detail. Thank you all.
Oh gosh, thanks so much for that, Chris. Well, I was really excited to see you as a guest because I remember driving in my car and hearing on BBC about SOS and hearing about sargassum, and I said to my son, "Oh my gosh, that's what I'm interested in," and he was like, "Yeah, Mom, here you go again." So it was
No, once you get into the sargassum world, you can't forget about it.
Exactly. So thanks so much for your contribution. That was great. So next up, we're going to have Vasalis Zisimopoulos. This is a pre-recorded presentation, I do believe. And this is to do with holistic solutions for sustainable beaches.
Hello everybody from the island of Crete in Greece in the Mediterranean Sea. Thank you very much for your invitation for this important forum. My name is Vasalis Zisimopoulos and I am the CEO and founder of Costa Nostrum. And this is my presentation. Costa Nostrum Sustainable Beaches, a protocol for the sustainable development and management of the Mediterranean beaches. We all live in a big island, as about 70% of the earth is covered from water. So, we have the same common problems as concerning the coastal lines worldwide. Our seas are in severe danger from the pollution. Erosion on coastal line is a very important problem. Over-tourism on beaches and of course biodiversity is collapsing. Beaches and tourism are the two sides of the same coin. 80% of the tourism industry is developed in coastal areas. The revenues of the tourism sector worldwide is more than $700 billion per year. One square meter of a beach can yield more than 10 euros per day, direct or indirect, in the wider coastal community. From the other hand, environmental, social, and economical consequences. Our inspiration came up from a phrase of a famous Greek writer, Nikos Kazantzakis, that wrote in Askitiki, "Love responsibility. Say, it's my duty and mine alone to save the earth. If it is not saved, then I alone am to blame." Also, bearing in mind that you protect what you know, we decided to create Costa Nostrum, which combines environmental innovation, local economic growth, social cohesion, personalized authentic experience, worldwide promotion of the coastal area, connecting coastal area with mainland, preservation and protection of natural resources, certification of the sustainability degree of the beach, a holistic approach, local experience, and of course, coastal sustainability. So, our mission through Costa Nostrum Sustainable Beaches Protocol is to transform every public and hotel beach to a world-class for seahorses sustainable beach. What is the challenge about? No recognized sustainable beach management system. Current solutions, if any, are inadequate or fragmented with multiple points of failure. No immediate upside to sustainability. Every beach has its own unique characteristics. How we meet these challenges? We deliver a holistic solution. We bring together many partial solutions. It's a dynamic upgrading system that can incorporate solutions depending on the needs and characteristics of each beach. Action is taken at the level that is closest to the real world of places. We convert a simple beach into a worldwide sustainable top destination. And of course, community and stakeholder engagement. And all this by measuring 39 criteria: environmental, social, and economic. But what Costa Nostrum Sustainable Beach is? First of all, an innovative tool for the establishment of a beach as sustainable. Second, categorization and certification of the sustainability degree of each beach. And third, promotion and marketing of every certified beach worldwide. Our protocol and our value proposition is that we identify and replace poor practices. We have an objective rating scale of sustainability. If you don't measure it, you cannot improve it, and we mean sustainability. We go further than innovation. We increase property unique selling point and brand perception. We increase satisfaction of customer beaches users, and of course, global promotion of the certified beaches. And all this, at the end, we have an increase at the satisfaction of the customers and the beach users. The users love certified Costa Nostrum beaches, and this came up from more than 6,000 questionnaires from bathers, visitors, and beaches users on the certified Costa Nostrum sustainable beaches. Why now? Because the demand for sustainable beaches is increasing, and because until today we have certified 16 beaches as Costa Nostrum sustainable beaches. So we have the know-how to expand it in multiple beaches across the world. Moreover, our world needs to move towards a more sustainable tourism model. And of course, because Costa Nostrum contributes to the increase of the revenues of the beaches management bodies, municipalities or hotels, we have estimated that about 1 square meter of a certified sustainable beach can yield more than 14 euros per day, direct or indirect, in the wider coastal community. Costa Nostrum meets 8 United Nations Sustainable Goals. It's an affordable solution for public and hotel beaches. We started our project from the Mediterranean beaches, and we want to expand it worldwide to lake shores, rivers, and beaches. And of course, in all kinds of beaches with the same positive results: organized beaches, non-organized beaches, and natural protected area beaches. Since our beginning, Costa Nostrum has several distinctions and awards. We are among the top 5 companies worldwide of the United Nations World Tourism Organization in the category Innovation and Digitalization for Island Destinations. We are a representative of Greece, the only SME in the Mission Ocean and Waters program of the European Union. We participate in the Blue Invest Readiness Assistance program of the European Union. We are good practice in 3 inter-European programs. We have distinction in European Business Awards for the environment. We have an international and Greek award in innovation contest. We have a successful participation in 3 incubator programs. So, join us today to transform your beach to a world-class 4 seahorses sustainable beach. Thank you very much for your attention.
Wow. That was fantastic. Thanks for that. I think one of the many great things about this concept is that often the idea of sustainability, it seems very abstract and intangible, but the idea of that kind of certification to say there's 1 or 2 or 3 seahorses, immediately it's something that can appeal to a broad cross section of ages and stakeholders. So thanks so much for that. We really appreciate that knowledge from Costa Nostrum. Okay, coming up next, we are going to have Skylar. Skylar, you are the director of the Selfassembly Lab at MIT. And I know that your focus is on, you're a designer and a computer scientist, and you focus on developing materials within the built environment. So I will let you say more about that. Over to you, Skylar.
Sure. Yeah, I'm faculty at MIT. I run a research lab called the Selfassembly Lab, and we collaborate with an organization called Invena in the Maldives. Over many years, we've studied the self-assembly and self-organization process, and we're trying to address some of the urgent challenges, whether that's long-term sea level rise or more immediately erosion and storm inundation. And what we're focusing on is going against kind of the 2 predominant methods. One is building barriers and armoring, which almost never work in terms of trying to fight nature. They often break down. And more common is dredging, pumping sand back to the beaches, and this happens everywhere around the world. We're trying to basically work with the forces of the ocean, so how to tap into waves, currents, tides, and promote the natural self-organization of sand. So how do we promote emergence of sand on its own? Once we can do that, we're looking to use vegetation to stabilize this sand, and then we're trying to challenge some of the traditional use of concrete and come up with more localized materials. So obviously it's very complicated, why sand accumulates, why it erodes, why sandbars emerge, why islands emerge. And this is very much ongoing research, but our proposal and our hypothesis is that it's the relationship between the force of the ocean and the geometry underwater. So you might have a shipwreck, which then might cause a lot of sand to accumulate or erode. Similarly, there might be a reef or a shelf. That geometry then guides how the sand accumulates. And so in our research lab, we study that through tanks. We have wave tanks. We place geometries underwater. We change the shape of those geometries. We do lots and lots of experiments with this and then study how the sand accumulates or not. We then look at that through wave action, horizontal current flow, and vertical recirculating tanks where we can switch effectively seasons. And we look at how different geometries influence that. We have other tank setups where we can change, again, roughly the seasons. So in the Maldives, there's mainly 2 predominant northeast and southwest monsoon seasons. And we can change how the water is flowing, effectively how the current is flowing, study how the sand self-organizes based on that. So we take all of this knowledge from the lab and we translate those into field experiments. We've done 4 field experiments in the Maldives. These are mostly funded by National Geographic and then other sources. The first one was in 2018. We placed meter scale objects. The second one was in 2019. This one's roughly 20 meters long by 4 meters by 2 meters. And these are passive geometries, very much like what you saw in the tank. They just sit there. There's no motors, there's no pumping, there's no mechanisms. And in just 4 months, we saw 0.5 meter of new sand in elevation change. And we have roughly 0.5 meter to go. Our goal is to breach the surface of the water. And then once we can do that is to stabilize it. So this is just completely passive. It uses the force of the ocean to generate the sand. We then, a year later, went back and we tested another construction system. These are very lightweight modules that can be deployed in roughly an hour. And you can deploy them and then move them. So the idea here is that they can be adjusted from one season to another. You can just adjust the angle, or you can shift it to another part of the island or another part of the coast. Almost like gardening, you can then prepare for the changes in the season and then accumulate sand. The last field install that we've done last November, we went back and we started to install floating vegetation systems. The idea being that the vegetation grows down as the sand grows up. It traps more sand and then stabilizes the sand. So they're basically like floating mangrove systems that hover above the structure. And then we're going back next week, combining some of the bladder geometries with embedded vegetation systems. This is the bladder from 2019, and you can see lots of growth and marine life around that. Beyond the field installs, we also do satellite analysis. Basically, we watch how island sandbars shift and change over time, and we can monitor and track them. how they're getting bigger, getting smaller, how much they're shifting. And one of our big visions here is that we can create a global database for satellite analysis. And so we can track every island around the world and every coastline around the world to give alerts and say, do you know that last night you lost 3 meters of beach and next month we predict you may lose X, Y, and Z? So we can use this computational tool to then monitor it, predict it, and maybe more importantly, we can have a database of nature-based solutions, which our work fits into, as well as many other people around the world, and we can then propose potential solutions. So all of this is trying to create a collaborative approach to working with the forces of nature rather than trying to fight it. And so what we're proposing is to work with the forces of nature to build rather than destroy and come up with novel solutions for their sustainability. Thanks so much.
Oh, you're so welcome. That was brilliant. I think one of the great parts about that, Skylar, was the involvement of communities. So you're empowering the communities to, you know, have a say and act definitively and tangibly in what's happening. And this would be great. I can see, I was a teacher in another life, and I could see there being field trips for classes from, you know, from a young age to make the ideas about climate change and again, empowering young people to combat climate change, something that's doable and tangible. So I thought this was fantastic. You made science so fun. That's the key, right? Making science fun. So we appreciate that. Thanks a lot. Okay, so we're going to move along to our next contribution, which I believe is pre-recorded. It's going to be David Tyler of Artemis Technologies, which is a sustainable transportation solution. So we'll roll that.
Oh, I'm actually here, Stacey.
Oh, you are here! Oh my goodness, that is awesome! That's like the best surprise of the session. So thanks so much. So we look forward to hearing what you have to say, David. Over to you.
I've got a few slides. I've got a few slides here, so I'll just present that now. If that's okay.
Brilliant. Okay, over to you.
Yeah. So I'm David Tyler, Commercial Director with Artemis Technologies. I'm one of the co-founders, and we are a spin-off from the Artemis Racing America's Cup team. So we competed in Bermuda back in 2017, racing these incredibly efficient hydrofoiling vessels. We founded Artemis Technologies shortly after the Bermuda America's Cup to see how the technology that we'd developed through the racing team could support the decarbonisation of the maritime sector. We developed a technology that we call the Artemis e-foiler system, which effectively combines a high power density electric drivetrain, hydrofoils, which mean that when the vessel sort of accelerates, it jumps up out of the water, significantly reducing the drag and using way less energy than a traditional vessel. We've also developed our own high voltage battery systems, and we also have an autonomous flight control system too. So the vessel is incredibly easy to operate. And on the right hand side, you'll see a picture up there of the foils on our 12-meter prototype, which we've had on the water for a year or so now. So this is, on the left hand side, is our electric foiling vessel. On the right hand side is the exact same hull shape, exact same boat, just with 2 gasoline outboards. So you'll see here that the e-foiler vessel is flying over the water. Very stable flight. This is actually us testing the vessel in the North Channel, up in the Irish Sea. We're based in Belfast. And this technology provides a number of benefits. Far more comfortable ride, significantly less weight creation, so it creates far less water disturbance, which means that you can operate at high speed, very close to shore, without disturbing coastlines. This is like-for-like comparison of the normal boat versus ours. You can see on the left-hand side that everyone's sort of getting thrown around, but on the right-hand side, it's a very comfortable ride. But the critical thing about the technology really is by flying over the waves, you use significantly less energy. That means for a given volume of stored energy on board, you can go significantly further. So this technology really unlocks the potential for high-speed maritime transport. So we've validated the performance of the technology against its sister ship there on the left-hand side. You can see the difference in wake there. And in 0.1 of a meter HS, so almost flat water. The Pioneer is using 83% less energy at 17 knots. And as the sea state increases, actually the efficiency differences between the two boats increases as well. So the table on the bottom right-hand side, you'll see that as the sea state increases to 0.6 of a meter HS, the saving, the kind of energy efficiency jumps from 83 to actually 87%. So the electric foiling vessel is higher performing as the sea states get worse, basically because the vessel on the left-hand side is kind of smashing around the waves, where the foiling vessel kind of just flies over the top. So we're developing a range of different vessels. This is our high-speed passenger ferry, which we begin building in a couple of months' time, and this vessel will launch next summer and be operated in Northern Ireland and Belfast, between Bangor and Belfast in Northern Ireland. We've received significant money from the UK government over the last 5 years, almost 40 million to support us in developing our e-foiler technology and the vessels. And this is just a short video just showing you the EF24 passenger ferry. So this vessel is 24 meters, has a capacity of 150 passengers. It has optionally retractable foils as well, so to reduce the draft for coming into shallow ports and harbours. It's 100% electric, obviously no air, water or noise pollution at all, an incredibly comfortable ride. So this is quite a transformative product for future of mobility. And one of the significant things about our technology as well, because you're flying over the water, drastically reducing the drag, which means that you're using a lot less energy, which means you're using a lot less fuel as well. So our vessels are also significantly cheaper to operate, both in terms of fuel savings, but also in terms of maintenance cost as well. There's far less maintenance to do on electric motors and electric battery systems compared to internal combustion systems. This is just a quick shot of the interior of the vessel as well. So there's flexibility in the layout, depending on the number of seats, depending on the number of bikes you want, etc. But the vessel is only part of the solution. We also provide the high-speed charging infrastructure required. So on the right-hand side, you'll see this is Pioneer, our electric boat and foiling in Belfast. This is a high-speed dispenser on the pontoon here, which uses a CCS connector, which is what you'd find on a Tesla. But important for sort of, particularly on islands where kind of access to power can be challenging at times. We have a shore-based battery solution. So on the left-hand side, you'll see that it does a slow trickle charge from the available power, charges up the battery so that when the vessel actually comes into dock, you can do a very fast discharge into the boat itself. This 12-meter boat, has a range of 60 nautical miles at 25 knot speed, and we can charge the vessel using this system in under 60 minutes. Our technology is all manufactured in Belfast, where we're based, yeah, we've been inviting people over to Belfast to actually come and have demonstrations on the vessel, and very happy to host people. And then next week, actually, we're going to be launching our new product. So there's a little bit of a sneak peek here, but we'll be unveiling a 12-meter water taxi. So this boat officially, I think the press release is going out on the 25th of April, but I thought I'd give you guys a bit of a sneak peek at it. So yeah, this is the EF12 Escape. So I think I might have saved you some time, Stacey, there.
That is awesome. No, I was just saying it's incredible. We could really do it, those here in the region, in the Caribbean region, for interregional transport, for sure, or inter-island transport. Love these.
Yeah, and I think, as you look, in terms of, these vessels use significantly less energy. So obviously that's important moving forward. And obviously the environmental impact as well of being completely zero emission in operation too.
Yeah. Exactly. No, that's brilliant. So I know you said that you would host people in Belfast, but I can say in the Caribbean, we would love to host you if you came over here and bring some of those vessels. That'd be fantastic. So Thanks for that. I can see from the chat that people absolutely are loving the technology that we can see and how beautiful the vessel is. So any questions we have for David, now that he's actually here, as opposed to what I thought, please put them in the Q&A, and I know he'll be happy to answer them. Okay, so we're going to move on now, and I know that Legena is here, Legena Henry of Raman Sargasm Inc., and that sargassum-based fuel is her focus, and this will be awesome to hear, particularly since we already heard from the speaker to do with Sargassum SOS. We heard from Chris. So Legena, now over to you, please.
Hi, everyone. Thanks, Stacy. So I am Legena Henry, PhD. I'm the lecturer for renewable energy at UE Cave Hill. And I was just mentioning to Skylar that I too am an MIT graduate. I'm course 2, mechanical engineering. And my focus was ocean engineering. And you'll see a lot of that in my talk about Raman Sargasm. So I'm also the CEO and founder of Raman Sargasm. And our tagline is, you can drive any car on this on sargassum-based biofuel, and welcome every driver in any car to the renewable energy era. And why we say it like that is there's been, I mean, we do see a renewable energy shift in Barbados. There's actually a policy in this country. It will be fossil fuel free by 2030. And so we've seen electrification of road traffic. And we thought there must be a low cost solution alongside that shift. And so this was the prime reason why we went into sargassum as a biofuel. And I'm just gonna hide meeting controls because it's just one screen, so and I want to see my screen. All right, so getting into the talk. This is just an intro video describing our solution.
We can't actually hear the sound, so maybe you can talk a little bit about what we're seeing.
Oh, sure. Sorry, sorry, I didn't realize you weren't hearing the sound, but it was just us. It was just cool modern music. It wasn't, the sound didn't actually add too much to it, except it's very exciting sounding music. But pretty much this video, I guess you can see it on the Raman Sargasm webpage. It describes the solution that we are working on. And it's actually just 5 more seconds, so I'll just let it play out to the end. Good, but thanks for saying that. Pretty much, we just got funded by Hit Reset, our European Union fund, which is helping us with our biogas solution. So over the next 18 months, my team and I were building a sargassum biomass prediction app to go along with our biofuel production. The thing I always tell people is sustainability is at the heart of our solution. So I saw some questions after the presentation from SOS Carbon about, isn't sargassum also helpful to the environment? What are the positives? How do you impact the ecosystem by harvesting sargassum? And so I guess I'll get into that in my slides, but we do think about the harvesting of sargassum on a nexus of sustainability. So like you know, and like you saw in the SOS, the carbon presentation, Tropical Paradise, is in trouble. In 2017, 20 million tons of sargassum seaweed influx entered the Caribbean and the Central Atlantic. That was the year 2017. In the year 2018, in just June, that volume entered the Mid-Atlantic. And these are estimates. So by February 2023, that same volume had already entered the Caribbean Sea and the Central Atlantic. So the problem is here, it's getting worse, it's here to stay. And the science all points to needing solutions that meet this arriving sargassum at the scale that is arriving. So our solution, we are using something called anaerobic digestion to produce biomethane from sargassum seaweed.
With climate change and skyrocketing gas.
Sorry, now I'll make sure I share the sound.
We can actually hear that. I'm not sure why.
Climate change and skyrocketing gas prices, Barbados' transportation must become fossil fuel free by 2030. Bio-CNG is an inexpensive solution that can help Bajans slash their gas bill by 50%. Rest assured that in the current energy transition, you do not need to part with your car. You can fill your car using our renewable Bio-CNG made from the co-digestion of cheap, locally sourced waste products like rum distillery wastewater, blackbelly sheep manure, and sargassum seaweed. Our formula produces Bio-CNG with the highest quality compressed biomethane from Raman Sargasm, unexpected energy. With climate change.
Sorry, I'm trying to go to the next slide in Canva. It's not exactly the same as PowerPoint. All right, so Raman Sargasm is a Barbados-based biofuel company producing transport fuel from low-cost local waste streams, including rum distillery wastewater and sargassum seaweed. It's a spin-off company from research results generated in the Renewable Energy Lab at UE Cave Hill, the University of the West Indies Cave Hill campus in Barbados. So far, we've kind of gathered support around the solution from various bodies, and we're now in the process of setting up a pilot. The vision of Raman Sargasm is we want to see most of road traffic in Barbados driving on inexpensive biofuel from sargassum seaweed and rum distillery wastewater. And why this is special for a small island like Barbados is for most of the small islands, and I know I'm preaching to the choir, we don't have a lot of land, we're land limited. And so biofuel was never seen as a large scale solution in the renewable energy transitions of small islands in the Caribbean. But this arrival of a biomass from the ocean, where we consider ourselves large ocean states, is actually a game changer for us. And so Raman Sargasm is taking advantage of that opportunity, which is a crisis, and trying to leverage it for what it can do. So right now, we are in the process of setting up our Alpha gas station, and it's no longer at UE Cave Hill, Barbados. It's actually at one of the energy companies locally. But the plan is that by July, I'll be driving my car on this fuel and 3 other cars. And so that's our gas collector. What the pilot looks like. Am I out of time? I feel like I'm hearing somebody interrupting me to tell me I'm out of time.
Yes, if you just want to wrap up.
So just to talk about the team, so I'm an MIT trained CEO. We have a Yale trained managing director who's a business analyst at Microsoft, and just we are passionate about Caribbean solutions and Caribbean professionals solving problems for our region, in our region. And if anybody wants to ask more about this solution, you can message me on one of these. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Legina. That was fantastic. Really, really interesting to hear about this work, and looking forward to seeing more Sargassum-powered cars on the road very soon. And I agree, it was mentioned earlier, the more you find out about Sargassum, the more interesting it gets. It's amazing when you start digging into that topic, the complexity and the interest there. So thank you very much for joining us today. I'll introduce our final presentation from Wells Howe, who's the Director of Blue Carbon at Beneath the Waves, mitigating future impacts of climate change by protecting blue carbon ecosystems and creating carbon banks. So I'll hand over to him now.
Wells Howe, I'm the Director of Blue Carbon at Beneath the Waves. And what I want to thank you for is a thoughtful few days of discussion. Would like to present today our team's Blue Carbon Climate Solutions Initiative. So to set the stage a bit, the scope for what we're trying to solve here is anthropogenic greenhouse gas emissions. And so if you double click in terms of the sources of how we are emitting into our atmosphere, over a third of that has come from degrading nature, whether that is changing natural ecosystems, whether that is degrading them. Over 1/3 of all the CO2 that's been released to our atmosphere has actually been from damaging nature. So it solves, if we're able to reverse this trend, over 1/3 of the issue can be solved through partnering with nature. This is critical if we are to hit collaborative international goals and targets such as net zero by 2050. Looking at our oceans, and more specifically the natural assets that island nations contain along their coastlines, that would include blue carbon habitats, seagrass, mangrove, salt marshes. These ecosystems are extremely efficient at trapping carbon through natural ecosystems functions such as photosynthesis and plant growth. All of these ecosystems trap anywhere from 4 to 8 times as much carbon as a tropical rainforest, and they can do that 15 times faster. What this creates is a brand new asset class, a monetization opportunity for island nations to value the services that their ecosystems are providing in terms of a natural planetary defense system to climate change. We got involved in blue carbon actually through a marine biodiversity study, specifically working with apex tiger sharks. And what you can see here is our use of monitoring services actually showed the Bahamas to contain the world's largest natural carbon sink in the ocean. It is over 90,000 square kilometers, dense seagrass meadow, trapping over 1 billion tons of CO2 gases. We have developed a proprietary program called Blueprint. So Beneath the Waves, what we do is we'll actually go out and form public-private partnerships to go and discover, document, and ultimately monetize these blue carbon ecosystems through blue carbon credits. Looking ahead in terms of the marketplace, this is slated to grow over 100 times in the next 3 decades. The annual value over $1.2 trillion in voluntary credits by 2050 in a recent McKinsey report. At its simplest terms, a carbon credit is 1 ton of greenhouse gas emissions. So through partnering with nature, restoring, bolstering, protecting these vital ecosystems, you can actually document the amount of carbon trapped in those ecosystems. That allows folks in the private sector or supply chains to offset their unavoidable emissions with carbon trapped in nature. So 1 ton of CO2 is going to equate to 1 carbon credit. And this is the actual monetization, the tradable unit that allows for the sustainable recurring revenue source. Beneath the Waves, what we do is we manage the process on behalf of our local partners and sovereign nations, all the way from science to credits. So we deploy proprietary technology that allows us to map at fine resolutions never before documented and measure the amount of carbon in huge swaths of ecosystems. This allows us to have a pre-accredited methodology, first of its kind for blue carbon, and facilitate the activation of blue carbon as a revenue source. This goes all the way through the management of added protections, restoration, and the creation of additionality on your coastline. Some of the assets that you can see that we have deployed in terms of how we do the field work to enable this first of its kind map of the Bahamas seagrass meadow, showing down to centimeters of accuracy, classifications of various blue carbon habitat in their corresponding carbon stocks. This is the 9-step process that Beneath the Waves has implemented to partner with sovereign nations and empower local communities to facilitate revenue generation, again, from project baseline all the way to monetization and distributions. Looking at the Bahamas, this is a key place where proprietary technology has been developed and deployed on behalf of a sovereign initiative. Some of our key partners, as you can see, we work with the good folks at NASA and MIT to systematically document and measure the amount of CO2 and blue carbon that exists in these ecosystems. So what I want to leave you with today is an opportunity to curate a public-private partnership that pulls in an opportunity for sustainable development, for recurring revenue, and for community-led co-benefits to be realized through the protection of nature and the assets and value that it provides. So I want to thank you with your time and open it up to questions.
Wow, thank you so much for all of those presenters. That was a fantastic range of solutions we got to hear about. Really inspiring to have that. I know a lot of information, 9 in a row, so don't worry. Every session from the last 3 days is available online, so you can have that access afterwards to go back and review anything. We'll be sending out all the instructions on accessing the library later on today. With that, we are almost approaching the end of the Island Finance Forum 2023. It's been an absolutely fantastic few days, and we've really appreciated working with all of you. A special shout out to our friends at PwC in the Caribbean for all of their support over the last few days. It's been really, really incredible working with them and putting some of these sessions together. While I have you, one last invitation to join us in person. If you thought the virtual element was good, then the in-person opportunity is going to be even better. We are, over the next few years, we will be having a series of regional events in different parts of the world. And in June, if you're interested in blue economy, and all of these solutions we've just discussed are blue economy. So in June, you can join us on the island of Madeira in Portugal. A beautiful, beautiful island anyway, and even better when you have the island innovation community there to greet you. So the Blue Economy Investment Forum, 22nd and 23rd of June is an in-person event, and we hope you'll join us there. If you want to scroll down, Christian, you can see a little bit of the pictures of the island on the site. The link is in the chat. And we have a fantastic venue on the waterfront in the village of, or the town of Mashiku, in the northeast of the island on the coast. We'll be having various sessions throughout the few days there on various aspects of ocean investment. You'll get to meet investors, government representatives, and the small medium enterprises working on blue economy solutions. And we have a great set of partners so far who've joined us to put this event together, and others coming on board. So all attendees of the Island Finance Forum have access to a discounted ticket, which will be available until tomorrow. The link for that is in the chat. We hope to see you there. Stacey, we've got 2 or 3 minutes just to wrap up. So I know you had a very quick exercise just to get some back from everyone.
Yeah, I'm keeping the energy going, and I wanted to challenge everyone, especially the Island Innovation Ambassadors. I've talked about that program. You can see that program on our website. I'd love you to drop in the chat 1 word or 1 sentence. What do you think about the Island Finance Forum this year? What were your key takeaways? And I'm going to see exactly what you think. I know some of you have already said things like it's great to explore the synergies, but I would love to see that. Okay, I see inspiring. Thanks so much, Candace, of the first. Awesome. Inspiring, awesome, incredibly informative. So many open ideas. Informative, innovation. Keep them coming. Insightful. I want to see the entire chat filled up. Caroline already did. Motivational. Hope, that's a fantastic word, because we see there's solutions out there. Passionate, it's an informative type place to be. Thanks so much for all of that. I would love to do like a word cloud and make this a presentation of this. We really loved having you here. I saw a very interesting comment in the chat, a safe future for children, and that's what we're trying to do at Island Innovation. We need the sustainability to make the world a fantastic and even more amazing place. So thanks so much for that. Thank you, James.
And with that, we will give a big thank you to all of you for joining us. All of our team at Island Innovation, working from all corners of the world at all times of the day to make this happen. I'm sure you can imagine the amount of work behind the scenes that comes in, and there's almost 20 of us now at Island Innovation working to bring all this together. So thank you to each and every one of our team members for all their work and keeping all the work going for our clients and other projects in the meantime. Thank you again to PwC in the Caribbean for their support, all of our speakers and partners who have joined on with this event. And we look forward to many, many more events coming up throughout the year. Thanks again for all your feedback, all your support. And with that, I'm going to bed. It's getting late here, so that's the end of the day. Enjoy the rest of your week, and we'll be in touch soon. Thank you, everyone. Goodbye.
Thank you. Goodbye.